Let me ask you a question. If an enemy nation fired a ballistic missile at Washington, D.C., how would the United States react? Let's just say they decide to immediately defend themselves, but they don't obliterate said enemy, but instead begin taking out the bad guys one by one. 3 days later, that same enemy sponsors another enemy country to fire another ballistic missile at Washington, D.C. What now? Is the White House going to hold back on eradicating these enemies? Will the world then begin marching in the streets, publicly supporting America's enemies? Will the Pope, leaders all across the free world, and even the United Nations call for America to show restraint and ultimately agree to a ceasefire? How is a ceasefire even in this equation? Of course, as ridiculous as this situation and these questions sound, it's exactly what's been happening in Israel this week. And unfortunately, the world, as usual, is turned upside down, calling good evil and evil good. Let's get into the details. I'm Luke Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let me know in the comments if you're a new subscriber to our channel. One of our videos magically disappeared from a certain channel this week. So if you want to help us get the word of the Israel Guys videos out to a larger audience, you can head over to theisraelguys.com. You can sign up for our email newsletter. And if you really want to help us, you can make a tax-deductible donation. That's all at theisraelguys.com. So here's what was happening in Tel Aviv last night around 1 a.m. You know, as an Israel supporter, I'm guessing you think about and pray for Israel a lot, no matter where you are in the world. You see news headlines, you're concerned for Israel, but I'm guessing it's still a little bit hard to relate when you're so far away, until you come here for yourself. As someone who lives in Israel now, I can tell you that when I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning and I saw this map of a rocket barrage in central Israel, I immediately thought of family members who are currently staying in Tel Aviv. And this isn't even the first ballistic missile to be fired at Israel this week. There was another one early in the week fired from Lebanon. When you experience something for yourself, or you have family or friends who are directly in harm's way, war becomes much more real. Besides hundreds of rockets, some of which were blown up over the studio here in Samaria, there was a ballistic missile fired from Hezbollah and another from the Houthis in Yemen this week. You'd think it'd be a good week for Israel to drum up international support, right? Well, you'd be wrong. So when New York erupts in violent protests and riots in support of Hezbollah, the world reacts by demanding a ceasefire. A ceasefire between Israel, the good guys, and Hezbollah, the bad guys. To be clear, the bad guys have also fired more than 8,000 rockets at the good guys in the last 12 months. They've intentionally targeted and killed innocent civilians in Israel, and they've declared their intentions to maim, kill, and destroy the Jewish nation, at least until they decide to stop defending themselves against the other bad guys, also known as Hamas, on their other border. I mean, what other nation in the world would do what Israel is doing right now? If ISIS fired a ballistic missile at the White House, how do you think America would respond? And if any other nations of the world called for America to then agree to a ceasefire only a few days after that missile was fired at the White House, do you think America would give it the time of day? Obviously not. But unfortunately, we do live in a world where evil is called good and good evil. Israel's war with Hamas and Hezbollah came much closer to home for us here at the Israel Guys this week. Early in the week, I was sitting at my desk on a Zoom meeting with our production team when the office building, suddenly shook several times in a row. Since we saw fighter jets directly over the building afterwards, we assumed it was a sonic boom from the jets breaking the sound barrier. The Israeli Air Force was on some kind of training mission, right? Within seconds, however, I started seeing a rocket map. You know, those maps that show rocket barrages and where exactly they're at? And the little red dots on this map showed that rockets had targeted a community only 5 minutes down the road from where our studio is located minutes before this. One of the rockets even made it through the Iron Dome defense system and landed next to a Jewish community that is not far from where I'm sitting right now at all. In the past few days, hundreds of rockets and 2 ballistic missiles have targeted Tel Aviv, Haifa, and central Israel, and even Tiberias, with one rocket even landing in the Sea of Galilee. All this while, protesters in New York City surrounded Benjamin Netanyahu's hotel, where he's currently preparing to give a speech at the United Nations, and they shouted things like, "We're gonna get you," "No war criminals in New York City," and "Stop the genocide," flood the United Nations for Gaza and Lebanon. The fall feasts are almost here, and it's believed that this year, more believers around the world will be celebrating than ever before in history. If you're a Christian wanting to learn about the biblical festivals and how they are significant in our faith, or if you're looking for a meaningful way to connect with Israel right now, we suggest you get a copy of I Am Israel, the Believer's Guide to the Rebirth of the Promised Land, showcasing over 550 stunning photographs, illustrated maps, and powerful stories. This gorgeous hardcover will take you on a visual journey through the land of the Bible. You'll explore the epic regions of Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the coastlands, and the Galilee. You'll meet Jewish pioneers who are returning to their ancient homeland, just as the Bible foretold. Discover stories of Christian heroes who played a pivotal role in the reestablishment of the nation of Israel, and learn about the feasts of the Lord, from Passover to the Feast of Tabernacles, and see how they are celebrated in Israel. This high-quality coffee table book is the perfect way to introduce anyone to the miracle of Israel. Visit the book section at iamisraelfilm.com or simply click the link in the description below to get yours today. Has the world gone mad? Ever since Hezbollah began sending ballistic missiles into Israel, the world pounced on the opportunity to push for a ceasefire. There's just one problem. They're blaming Israel for attacking Lebanon instead of blaming the real bad guys, obviously Hezbollah. In a proposal backed by the United States and France for a 21-day ceasefire, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said this about Blinken's discussions with Israeli officials. He said, quote, "He discussed the importance of reaching an agreement on the 21-day ceasefire across the Israel-Lebanon border proposed by the US, Australia, Canada, the EU, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and Qatar, and a diplomatic settlement that will allow civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes." He went on to say, quote, "He underscored that further escalation of the conflict will only make that objective more difficult." So now we've got America blaming Israel for escalating the conflict. The Pope is even joining calls for a ceasefire, but in the same breath, blaming Israel for attacking civilians in Lebanon. Ever since Hamas first attacked Israel 12 months ago, the world has called on Israel to agree to a ceasefire. Ever since Hezbollah escalated their attacks against Israel and the Jewish state in turn began to defend themselves, the world has called on Israel to agree to a ceasefire. Why does the world side with Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen, and Iran? Why would we believe terrorists who, besides trying to annihilate Israel, do things like this? And also this. Hamas killed, maimed, and kidnapped thousands of people, and for the last 20 years have done their best to destroy the state of Israel. At the same time, they have duped the world with videos such as those you just saw. And the world has believed it. The world stands by, accuses Israel of genocide, defends Israel's enemies, allows those same enemies to riot and protest violently in their own streets, and continually calls on Israel to agree to a ceasefire that will allow those same enemies to murder more Jews. It is indeed true that good is being called evil and evil good. Guys, don't forget, episode 1 of the brand new Sovereignty series is premiering this Sunday, September 29th, right here at the Israel Guys. You can sign up to make sure you don't miss out using the link in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out the I Am Israel photo book, The Believer's Guide to the Rebirth of the Promised Land. Just click that link in the description below. Let me know what you think about today's topic, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening in Israel. We'll be back soon here at the Israel Guys.